Welcome to the Chronic Warriors podcast with Cassandra A. Campbell.
A platform to share,
Hear,
and cheer chronic illness warriors.
Just know that when you made your commitment to your partner, you took their whole selves.
To be able to have a bad day, to be able to say, do you know what, I can't cope no more.
I am a chronic warrior because every day I wake up and I'm so glad to still be here.
welcome, and thanks for joining me for another episode of Chronic Warriors. Today, my special guest is Tracy, and she is going to talk to us all about being a chronic warrior and what she does to help people in the chronic illness community. Hi, Tracy. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good, thank you. And thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Tracy.
Yeah, so I'm Tracy Rodriguez, and I am a corrective exercise specialist. So that just means that I help people who are in chronic pain when no other methods have worked. And I used to struggle with chronic pain really severely and used to be totally disabled by it. So I love what I do, and I love teaching people how to thrive.
Okay. Can I ask where your chronic pain came from? What caused it?
Yes, so I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I was also hit by a semi-truck in 2014.
Wow.
So in 2014, I was hit. I recovered within 6 months. It was nothing too severe. And then 2 weeks into my marriage in 2015, the injury relapsed, which can be really common with hypermobility and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. When it relapsed, I was totally disabled by it, in bed, couldn't walk, couldn't stand for any length of time, and nobody could heal it because nobody was recognizing the hypermobility component. So I tried everything and just nothing worked.
So then what happened?
So at that point, I really was I'm a very solution-focused human being. So when something is going wrong with my health, and I know so many of us warriors are this way, we research, right? We find solutions. We do whatever we have to do when it seems like solutions aren't readily available to us. So I became a corrective exercise specialist. I delved into my studies, and then from that point, I healed myself. And really, ever since then, my life has kind of just taken off.
So when you say you healed yourself, are you saying that you have no pain and no symptoms of hypermobile EDS at all?
So I want to be very clear about this. Hypermobility is not something that you completely fix. Like, it's something that I will have for the rest of my life. But I will say, usually, probably 80 to 85% of the time, I have no pain. Right now, I'm postpartum. I'm 6 months postpartum, and this is the kind of danger zone for the hypermobile body, especially with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So when I'm postpartum, I can definitely wake up with a disc out of place. You know, I can reach for something and sprain my rotator cuff, those types of things. So it's definitely more of a danger zone for me at this time, but I am generally, even now, pain-free. I just have to be very, very careful. And then when things do happen, I have to be very attentive to my body.
Wow, so you're pain-free. I struggle to even imagine
Mm.
what having a life pain-free looks like.
Yeah, I know. It's so hard.
I'm sitting here thinking, pain-free? It's kind of stops me in my tracks.
That's so hard. And that's how so many of my clients feel. When they come to me, they have tried everything, and nobody has been able to give them solutions because the system is not set up for hypermobility. So when they're going in for treatment, they're getting one body part at a time treated, and that's not the solution for hypermobility, where literally everything is pulling everything else out of place. So common.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because in the past I've found when I've gone to physios and other kind of medical practitioners, well, one, they've generally never heard of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or they don't know much about it. They don't seem very interested in knowing anymore.
Nope.
And they will give me things to do which are just generic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
it hasn't worked for me. What I will say is that I have been going to the University College of Osteopathy over here in London for the past few years, and mainly when I've had particular flare-ups or injuries, but they know more about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome than any other specialist that I've ever seen before. And actually they just about a month ago, I said to them, you know, because they've been working on these injuries that I've been having, these ongoing injuries, and now they're starting to heal. I actually said to them, right, I need you to now start looking at my entire body and what's happening with my entire body. And then I met you. It's all just kind of falling into place at the right time.
Wonderful.
You know? And I actually did, even you and I had a short one-to-one where I was watching one of your videos about foot and ankle pain and how it's affected by what's going on in our hips, tightness in our hips and things like that, pelvic tilt, etc. I'm not going to get too much into the details because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just learning now. But, and so I actually went to, the week before last, I went to a session. I said, right, so I've been speaking to this woman and watching that video, and this is what she said. And what I really liked actually is that they weren't dismissive. You know, some specialists, professionals, they can be sort of like, oh, well, you know, you need to listen to us and not okay. But no, they were very receptive, and they totally agreed with what I told them that you had said, and we are looking at that now. So thank you so much for that.
Wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah. That's a needle in a haystack when you find any sort of professional that will really listen and that will follow what you say, because you're the expert in your body. Yeah. Obviously they're there to support you, but you're the one who knows your body. And so if somebody's listening to you.
Yeah, that's exactly what they say to me. You know your body. You've been living with this for so many years. So as much as they know the technical medical side of things, which I may not, but I also know what I'm feeling and what I can manage and what I can't manage. So they're absolutely brilliant with that. And it's been a long time coming to find professionals like that. So
exactly.
Coming back to what I was saying, I've watched some of your videos in your Facebook group, and I do think they're really informative. You give a lot of information about how our bodies work with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and what we can do to correct what isn't working well.
Yes.
I will admit I haven't done all of your suggestions yet.
That's okay.
I've had a lot going on recently, but it is in my mind, and it's there, that it's something that I want to incorporate into my life as a thing that I do on a regular basis, if not daily. But could you just tell us a little bit more about your videos and what you do and how it's helped your members?
I love that you've been investing yourself in watching those and that it's been helpful. I love that. That's my main mission there in my Facebook group, is to be an answer when answers aren't available. Because so many people, like we said before, are going through the motions. They're doing practitioner ping pong, they're bouncing around, they're seeing chiropractors, they're seeing physical therapists, they're seeing osteos, they're seeing all of these different types of doctors. And then they're just wasting their time and their money, and they're just going through this cycle of pain, and they're miserable, like not just uncomfortable. And you know what I'm talking about, miserable. So I've been there. When I used to be bedridden, I was just in excruciating pain. So when I do these videos, my goal is to talk directly to that person of why this hasn't worked. What muscular imbalances are holding the work that you've been doing back from healing, especially with hypermobility? What has been going on with the full body that has been stopping your ankle from healing, stopping your rotator cuff from healing, stopping your neck from healing? And once we look at the system with hypermobility, we're able to discover actual solutions that work. So that's my dream, is that somebody would watch those, and so many people do, that people watch those and they finally have answers and they have real tools to start carrying out into their life.
And I think what's brilliant, I mean, there are a lot of specialist professionals out there who have done the studying, but they haven't lived it.
Yeah.
And I think definitely for myself, and I think for a lot of people in our community, it's so much easier to take on board information, suggestions, direction from somebody who's lived it rather than somebody who's just studied it. So I think what's really powerful is the fact that you've been there and now you're here. and it shows that it's possible, you know, and although
That's
the
it.
journey might not be the same for everybody, you
Yeah.
are one of the success stories,
Yeah.
which I think is really
Yeah.
inspirational.
And I haven't seen one person come through my program without some sort of substantial pain relief. And most of my clients have hypermobility. So that's just to say that these are the tools that just aren't readily available, but there is hope and there are things that work. And I just had a client come into my program. She's on maybe her 4th week, maybe her 5th week. And she said that the first session, she had pain relief for the first time in decades. And that just blows my mind. So it's just to say there is hope for people who are going through that chronic pain cycle and there seems like there's no end and there's no answer. There is hope. So yes, I have been through it. I know how hopeless it was. It was isolating. Nobody understood. You know, you can tell a practitioner and they're just like, yeah. Like you just have like this wall up there, like you can't get through to really tell them what's happening. And yeah, so I just want to say to anybody who's listening, your pain is very valid. It's very real. I'm sending big hugs to you, and there is hope.
That's what this platform is all about, giving people with chronic illnesses, chronic conditions, chronic pain, hope, helping them to realize that there is hope and their life doesn't have to be over.
Yeah.
There are things that you can do and you can overcome certain things. It doesn't mean it's just going to disappear.
Absolutely.
But if you can improve your situation, if you can learn how to navigate life around your conditions, then there's so much possibilities.
So much. That's so true.
I'm really interested to know. So you have a young baby, a toddler, and a husband.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you balance and manage your health, your family, your business,
Oh.
and just life in general?
It's such a balance right now. Oh my goodness. So we ebb and flow with this, but ever since we had my daughter, it's been, I'm going to be honest, a battle to find the balance with everything.
Mm-hmm.
I really try to set up my day with my priorities, to set up my day with taking care of myself first. So, you know, I get out into the gym, I do my corrective exercise. That's what I do, you know, 50% of the time that I'm exercising, I'm doing corrective work because that's how my body needs me to treat it. And then, you know, I do some reading, I do some prayer, I do some, you know, all of these things to really take care of myself as a whole person, to eliminate stress because stress can affect our conditions so much. And then I set up my nutrition. So I do all of that to really take care of myself as a whole person, body, mind, soul, everything. And then I have my intentions set for the day where I know that my family is my priority. I know that first priority is to take care of myself. Second priority is my marriage. Third priority is taking care of my children. Fourth priority is work. And even though my clients mean the world to me, that's how it has to be in order to have a balanced life where everybody gets what they need. So on perfect days, that works really well. Because then if my toddler is screaming because he's this wonderful little boy who's so sensitive, you know, or if my baby needs something, or, you know, whatever happens, if my husband just needs more time with me, whatever it is, I can go back to my priorities that I set for the day, those mental priorities. And I can say, okay, this isn't bad because they are more important than this task I have to do. That's how I try to balance. But then, you know, I told you a disc rotated out of place in my lumbar spine. And so I couldn't walk for 2 days because I'm postpartum and my ligaments are very lax right now. And when that happened, you know, it really threw things off. I was trying to work from bed. I couldn't do much for the kids. So there are definitely days when things just hit me out of the blue and we have to be creative. And my husband and I really focus on mental framework with that, with, you know, this is temporary. We do the right things for my body, it improves. Like we have to know that so that we can stay positive, so that we can be kind to each other, so that we can do what we need to do to get me out of whatever that is that my body is going through and just respond to what my body is asking. So there are days that some days are harder than others.
I imagine. I think that's probably the same for most, if not all of
Mhm.
us. So do you always feel motivated to exercise, or do you have days where you're just like, not today?
You know, I love exercise. I really love it. I view it as a form of self-care, and I really love taking care of myself. With all things, especially being postpartum, it took time to get back into it. I was not motivated at first. So, you know, and this is a lot of what I guide my clients through too. It's a lot about habit building. And once your thoughts turn into actions and your actions turn into habits, once they turn into habits, it becomes more of a positive experience. But I think before that point, it's hard. So I love it. I treat it as my time of kind of just being away from everything and taking care of myself. But it wasn't always that way. And I'll probably always ebb and flow, as everybody does.
I think for me, I found recently, I mean, when I was younger, I always used to be, I was very sporty and active, like a lot of people with
Mhm.
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I used to love exercise. And, you know, even into my 20s and 30s, I've always done some form of exercise, even if I've had sort of breaks in between flare-ups and whatever not. But I've always tried to maintain some kind of activity in that way. And
Yeah.
I found recently, and this is where this exercise topic is really just important for me at the moment, because I've mentioned to you before when we've spoken that I've had these ongoing injuries that have just been lasting
Mhm.
forever, and it's not something that I've been used to.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of stabilizing, rehabilitation,
Yep.
strengthening exercises between the physio and the osteopath that they've been giving me. And I found that I wasn't being as proactive as I would have in the past in regards to
Mhm.
you know, being on top of my exercises, doing them daily. And I started to question, and it was just a few weeks ago, and I thought to myself, what's going on with you, Cassandra? Because this is just not like
Mm.
you. I'm usually sort of like, right, bang, this is what I've got to do, get on with it. And I'm
Yeah.
actually quite organized and stick to it and all the rest of it and structured. Then I realized that I'd been feeling quite overwhelmed
Yep.
with it because there were 3 different things that I was having to deal with, as well as just getting
Mhm.
on with the everyday life. And it was becoming quite overwhelming. And there was a part of me that's thinking, you know, are these things ever going to heal? Is this going to
Yeah.
be the next level of what I'm going to have to deal with, you know, new
Yeah.
symptom? But what I also found when I looked deep is that I realized that what was going on with me was psychological. It was the thing of, am I going to be doing this stuff and it's not going to improve enough to sort of go back to quote
Exactly.
unquote normal? And
Yeah.
also the pain that these exercises bring, even though I know that it's helping because I have improved from doing these exercises, but it was that fear of pain. And it's something, that fear of flare-ups. Okay, well,
Mm.
this, what's it going to stop me from doing? What flare-up is it going to cause? You know, so it's that little fear element came in it, and I don't like fear. You know,
No.
but I realized, I recognized that that's what was going on for me. So it was stopping me from doing what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that you have a lot of clients and a lot of people
Oh, yeah.
you speak to who have this fear of, either I'm going to do this stuff and it's not going to work, or
Yeah.
it's just going to cause me so much pain,
Yeah.
which is just not worth it, because I need to be able to do other things in my life, and I don't want
Yeah.
any more pain because I live with enough of it as it is. How do you
Right.
help your clients to overcome that?
So you are so spot on. And I love that you're going deep with this and that you're trying to get intuitive with what's happening on the inside that's leading to those behaviors, because that's exactly what I guide my clients through doing. What is the core belief that you're stemming everything off of? And that's why I said, when I'm in bed, when something happens to me, my husband and I have to mentally frame this with, this is temporary and what I do helps. And I have control to do things that help my body. I have to mentally frame it that way. Otherwise, I'll be overwhelmed. I'll be at some level convinced that my body has control that I don't. And when we're in that place where we feel like our bodies have control and we don't, there's this war going on between us and our bodies. And we're not going to be in alignment with behaviors that are going to help, because we don't believe that they will help. We'll stem off of that belief that they don't help. And when we do, there are going to be those self-sabotaging behaviors where we say to whoever we're working with, oh, I didn't do it like I said I would. And that seems very surface level, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's so based off of that core belief that my body is in control. I'm not. So why would I?
Yeah.
Why go through that?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I'll say And of course, I do help my clients form small goals. We make them very realistic. We really try to break things down so that it's not overwhelming, because this work can encompass you. It can take your whole life. You know, it can take 5 hours a day if you wanted it to fix everything going on in the body. And it's so important that we don't go there, because we'll get burnt out. So I really try to break it down for my clients and say, okay, what are some small, realistic, doable things that you can do this week? Let's get really specific with it. And then when you do them, send me a message so we can celebrate. Let me be a source of accountability for you. Let's reward you when you do something right. Let's do a happy dance so that we positively associate that psychologically with that positive reaction and that reward. So all of those things do help. But the other thing I'll say is we don't want pain when you're doing this work. And I think that that's one of the big things that's wrong with the industry, that where it's not geared towards hypermobility. So many people go to physical therapy and then they leave hurting, and they think that that is required for the work. And what's happening there, we have two phases that we go through with healing. The first is activation, where you build a relationship between the nervous system and the muscles that are supposed to be braces for your body. And then the second is endurance, where we add on the resistance bands and we add on range of motion, and we add on that intensity, not intensity, but we add on more challenge. So the thing that's wrong with the industry right now when they're treating hypermobility is they assume that we can jump to the challenge phase with resistance bands and with all of the stuff before we even have any relationship to our nervous system with those muscles. And we can't. So you might still see some improvement, but it's not nearly as much as you would see if we cut it way, way back in the challenge. Start at the small things just to be able to build a relationship with the nervous system and the muscles, because you know we've got dysfunctional nervous systems. You know it. Yeah. So we need to build that connection, that relationship first, and then build the endurance. Then give the resistance bands, then give the challenge, then give the range of motion. And if we don't do that, we're going to be battling flare-ups every time. So I do want to say, you know, when you're having pain consistently from doing this work, that's something to talk to your provider about, and to say, somebody mentioned to me that my nervous system might not be ready for this challenge. What can we do to take it down a notch? And to advocate for yourself with that, because that's one of the reasons I do a series called Why PT Didn't Work, or Why Physio Didn't Work. And that's one of the big reasons that we see with hypermobility, is that we're continuously pushing like we were a normal person. And with hypermobility, we actually have very small functional mobility. We need to start at the very, very baby steps to build that relationship with the nervous system.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I will say is the professionals that I've been seeing, they are very, very good. And they do sort of advise me not to push through the pain points.
Good.
And I guess also I have the added thing of the fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
As well. So then the muscles hurt as well, and
yeah.
the pressure points and all the rest of it. I've found some really good people. So
wonderful.
Who the kind of people I've had in the past who do exactly what you're saying, and sort of pushing you through, and not taking into consideration that it can cause flare-ups and that I might be ready for that. These guys, they have taken me on quite a slow process, and also again acknowledge that I know my body best, and I'm the one who has to cope with the pain when it comes to be able to function every day. So I will say that these guys, in their defense, they are very good at that, and they do listen to what my needs are and what I can and can't manage. I think it's just more about me having that sort of mental block that I've been having. You know, but it's really interesting when you talk about the process and your methodology, because it's just exactly the kind of process I go through from my coaching perspective in regards to the emotions, doing it in small chunks, owning your power, you know, from an emotional, psychological perspective, owning that, reclaiming your power, and being kind to yourself at the same time, but taking it in small steps.
Exactly.
Which is just so very important, because I think a lot of people think you can just jump from that to that and everything's just going to be great. And then when that doesn't happen, you're disappointed and you kind of go back to square one, you know. And
we're just stuck in a cycle.
Right. And you're stuck in a cycle that you keep going round and round and round. So, yeah, it is so very important. And the same with exercise and the body, about owning that, feeling and believing that you're in control of it. And you might not always feel like you are.
Right.
You know? But what we tell ourselves is very, very important, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. the narrative is just, it's everything.
Yeah, it most definitely is. It is a process. And
It
it's
is.
something that you have to work towards. And I know for me right now, when it comes to the corrective exercise and exercise in general, I have to get back to that place. What I do on a psychological and emotional level, I have to now put into the exercise.
Yep.
the physical stuff, which it was there before, but I'm getting back to it. But it's a process, and it's something that I had to identify before I could move forward.
So good that you did that. That's rare. And I know that it's because of your coaching background too, but I love to see that, because that is where change happens.
Yeah, most definitely. And this is all about showing people that it's possible.
Yes.
You might have to take a slightly different route to get there. You might not go the way that other people will go, but you can get there. And it might not look exactly how you expected it to look, but it can still happen even with slight amendments.
So true. I once had a client who, she was amazing. I mean, I loved working with her, but anytime I would make recommendations, her response would be, I'm not doing that. Her response would be, my body's not going to respond to that. Or the response would be, I'm going to be dealing with this level of pain for the rest of my life. I need whatever you tell me to do now to be sustainable. Without realizing that if you do this now, it does not have to be this way for the rest of your life. But she was so convinced of that narrative that it stopped her from doing the behaviors that would heal her. So it was heartbreaking to see. And even with that coaching, if a person isn't willing to believe something new, there isn't going to be something new that happens.
That's right. And you've got to be ready to put in the work as well. And that work is not only physical.
Right.
You have to be at that place. And unfortunately, in the line of work that we do, we can't make people get there. They've got to be ready. You know?
Exactly.
And that's something that I've had to realize, because I did, you know, in the earlier days, even before I started doing chronic illness mindset work, just from my previous background in helping people with their self-development, etc. So I wanted to bring everybody. I wanted to help everybody get from A to Z. And it's just not possible if a person, it's possible with some people, but with a lot of people, it's not. They have to be ready and open.
Yep.
Especially people in our situation, you know.
Absolutely.
That's really important. And then you can help them along the journey. But if they're just resistant, that makes your job even harder, and it's almost impossible for them to get to where they want to get to.
It is.
Yeah, they've got to be open and ready for that, and also be prepared for setbacks.
That's absolutely it. That's what I tell my clients when they come into the program. I say, this is going to ebb and flow. Every day is going to be different. And we're going to see a general progression upward as you're healing, and you're going to have flares, you know, and we avoid them as much as humanly possible. But that's something I tell all of my clients. Every day will look different, and success in this work looks like listening to your body. No matter what it's telling you, just listen to your body with a really finely tuned ear. That's what success looks like. And that's where pain relief comes from. But so many people think that success looks like having more range of motion and being able to use the resistance band and being able to do more and more and more. And then they're really doing it as a detriment to their bodies, because their bodies are telling them one day, okay, go way back to basics. And my body tells me that sometimes. Like, I've been doing this for, 10 years. And sometimes I'm in the gym doing my corrective work and my body says, okay, do an inch of range of motion today, because that's all that you should do. And I do it and I feel way better. So it really is redefining what success means.
And how do you know when that point is? Is it because you feel a pain and you say, okay, no, I need to bring it right back? How do you know?
It's way before pain. I call them the whispers. That's what I tell people. Our job to eliminate chronic pain is to listen to the whispers of the body before they become the yells, before they become the screams. So your body always gives you signs. It gives you what I call the check engine lights. And if we don't listen to those check engine lights and change something, that's when it becomes the breakdown, right? It always, even if we're in the highest point of our inflammation cycle, even when you're disabled in bed, even when all of that is happening, you can still have that moment of a whisper. And you might know what I'm talking about, where it's like that tension is building before it becomes something bigger. So something I coach my clients in is telling them, these are the hot spots in your body. Everybody's different, so I do this after assessment, but I say, these are the muscles you should not feel ever when you're doing this work. If you feel them even whispering, even the slightest bit, you're probably going to have a flare. So don't push past that range of motion. Don't push past that point. And a typical one for somebody with hypermobility would be your upper shoulders and your neck. And I mean like the side and the back of the neck. If you feel it in these areas, even the slightest bit, even if it doesn't hurt, you're pushing past capacity of the muscles we're trying to engage, and it's probably going to lead to tension or a flare. So we have to take it back.
That's really interesting because my muscles are always tight.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had days where they're not tight, and I get the pain and the tightness all over. But definitely my neck and my shoulders are massive challenges for me, especially, doing work on the computer. They're always a problem, and one of the ones that affects me more, my back as well. But that thing of even feeling a niggle, that whisper that you talk about, I don't know if there's anything that I do that I don't hear the whisper.
That's where it is right now. That's where it is when you're at that height of the inflammation cycle. And a part of why you're not experiencing any relief is because you probably don't know how to respond to it at this point, as nobody does who's in their inflammation cycle and it's really chronic. We don't know what to do with the whisper. And it's kind of beyond our mindset that if we listen to that whisper, it will change. So, I mean, we have ergonomists on staff who actually take our clients through how to set up the way that you sit, how to set up the way that you stand, how to set up your workspace so that it's not causing you pain, like taking into account that your repetitive motions, how you sit, how you sleep, how you stand, all of those things are teaching your body to be in pain, right? And so we need to teach it to not be in pain by doing it the functional way. So correcting your repetitive motions, but also when you feel like that whisper is there, change positions, do movement that feels good, icing and heating, which depends on the type and age of injury or pain, using your lacrosse ball and doing some self-myofascial release. All of those things are examples of things that you can do when the whisper happens to respond to it instead of pushing through the whisper, because that will just lead to the whisper being chronic and 24/7. But if we respond to it and we look at it as our bodies are talking to us, our bodies really are just asking us to listen. And when we listen and when we respond, it reacts so much differently in the pain cycle.
And it's about knowing what you're listening to as well. Because I think because I had 20 years before even being diagnosed, so I had no idea what was even going on in my body anyway. But, I've learned to listen to my body in some respects in regards to not pushing myself to flare up point. And that's just not in exercise, just in everyday life. And knowing when I need to rest and including rest days within my week and things like that. So I'm much better than I used to. But hearing what you're saying, there's still so much more that I need to understand what those whispers are. I do have some, because I've got more understanding now of proprioception, and I've got more awareness of when my body's in an awkward position and when I'm sitting at the PC knowing, okay, you need to stand up now. But I've become very much used to just pushing through the pain because I need to go on to do things.
Yep.
So it's really interesting. And that, again, not even just in exercise, just in normal everyday life, whether it's housework, whatever it is. My mentality, because I've always had that competitive mentality from childhood, even with myself, let alone anything else. And this thing that I've got to push through and I've got to do this and I've got to get that done. So it's an ongoing process. And I think self-development in any form is ongoing, I think, because we're learning new things about ourselves all the time and our bodies are doing new things. We're having new experiences all the time. But listening to what you're saying, I definitely need to fine tune my listening and listening out for those whispers and knowing what I need to do differently.
Yes. And it's such, like you said, it's such a process. And this is not meant to be, okay, well, I guess tomorrow I'm going to listen to my body, I'm healed. This is meant to be, I need help, I need support, or, this is going to be, I really need to tune into myself and take time for this and to take it in small, realistic steps, because this is one of the hardest parts of the healing process, surprisingly. It's so gentle that it's really hard to do, because most people who are in chronic pain are, like you were saying, the competitive type, or they're very diligent, they're very hardworking because they've had to do that their entire lives to survive with what they're dealing with. 95% of my clients come in and they're just the most incredible human beings. They're like, okay, let's get this done. Let's go. You know, they're just like the hardest working, most diligent people I've come across. You know, they're just amazing. They've had to be. But this work requires taking it way back and being able to say, oh, okay, back, you're feeling the slightest bit of tension. I'm going to stop what I'm doing whenever realistic. You know, we can't always do it, but whenever realistic, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to get up and do movement that feels good. If it starts to hurt, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to use my ball and do some self-myofascial release. I'm going to do whatever feels good for me right now. I'm going to rest if I need to and then get back up. And then I'm going to keep going. And that is the key. That's the most important piece, even before corrective exercise, is not pushing through that whisper. And when you're doing that, you're teaching the nervous system to form a new pathway where you're not inflamed. But if you keep pushing through it, that is literally teaching that inflammation cycle to get deeper and deeper and to worsen and worsen, because it's learning. Your body is always listening and it's always learning.
Wow, that's brilliant advice. And I think for me, I'm here listening to you and I'm thinking, okay, so I've taught myself to do that from a psychological, emotional level, you know, through my studies, counseling, coaching, etc., and just my life experiences and learning from experiences that I've had and how to do things differently. But it's not something that I've focused on until now in regards to my body. And it's almost like, as I'm listening to you, and a part of me is just recalling times where I felt like, oh my gosh, I've got to go back to basics. And that just feels so depressing.
Yep.
You know, and that whole thing of wanting to run before you can walk.
Yep.
Kind of thing, and expecting to be further along than you are, and just having that patience with yourself. And it's not easy.
It's not easy. And that's why I again tell people redefining success is so important with this, because success is not the gold star of achieving more. It's not the gold star of being able to do more. It's actually the opposite. Success is being able to do less as much as your body asks of you. Success is listening to your body and feeling good. That is success. And I really like to use myself as an example when I tell people this, because, you know, I'm this like person who is an expert in this. And there are days when I will not do resistance band stuff. I will not do what should be considered normal for a healthy person. And I call myself healthy. I am healthy. But I, at times, have to take it way, way back. And so it's not to say that 10 years down the line, you won't be able to do much more. You will, as you listen to your body's whispers. But it's also to say some days it's just going to ebb and flow, and you're going to just rest or do less, or, you know, just whatever your body asks you. And that is 100% what success looks like when it comes to pain relief. And it's so hard to redefine, because it goes to like our core worth. It goes to everything.
That's just so important. Really, really important and really interesting as well. You've got my brain going 100 miles an hour. But okay, you need to sort of stop and go back and not expect too much of myself. Thing of just want to get back to doing that and get back to doing that. Well, actually, that might not be possible. And I have to accept that it might not be possible for now. But also remember that that's for now. It doesn't mean it's never going to be possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so true. And when it comes to things that you love doing, I use an incremental approach. So that's what I love to tell people when it comes to things that you love doing is this is temporary. You listening to your body to this extreme measure is temporary. Your body will not ask as much of you the more that you listen to it. It's like a child. Right? If a child were asking something of us, we would 100% drop what we're doing and listen and respond and give, especially if a child were hurt, right? We would do everything we can to take care of that child. And as we do that, the child wouldn't need as much attention. The child would be like, oh, doop-de-doo, like go on with my life and play. And that's the same with our bodies. Our bodies are kind of crying, asking for us to drop what we're doing and listen. And oftentimes, I don't want to get too deep with this, oftentimes it's kind of a trauma response to not listen, because that's what we were taught maybe when trauma happened to us, is that we're not worth listening to.
Yes.
And so we kind of react to ourselves that way. That's typically what I see. That's something that I've dealt with. So it's really important to look at ourselves that way and to say, oh my gosh, with that compassion, you're talking to me. I'm going to listen. And as we do that, the body is able to recover. The body is able to heal. And as that happens, we build in what we love in increments as we're doing the healing work in tandem. So what that looks like is if walking causes you pain, we do this corrective work. We listen to your body 100% of the way. And then as it's telling you it's okay, we build in 5 minutes of walking. And then as it feels good with that, we build in 7 minutes of walking in tandem with the corrective work. And then we build it up to the point where you're able to do 30 minutes of walking. And maybe some days you'll be able to do 10 because your body is talking to you again. And that's okay. But that's how we build back in the things that we love as far as activities go.
Yeah. And it's about retraining our minds, isn't it? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
that whole thing of, oh, well, when I did that, it caused that pain or it caused that flare up.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very much about retraining how we think about our bodies and how we think about the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you got me thinking so much. And it's
Yay!
just, everything that you're talking about just totally resonates with me, because it's exactly what I do in my coaching and my courses. Is exactly the message I'm trying to get across to people as well. So
Amazing.
yeah, I definitely need to put that into practice when it comes to exercise. That is my next
Love it.
mission.
Well, I'm here for you. I'm here to support you in the process. It's not easy, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah, I can definitely see that with all that you've achieved. Absolutely brilliant. And I'm so happy that you've managed to achieve that for yourself and that you're using your experience to help other people. So the chronic pain, chronic illness, chronic condition community is very blessed, very lucky to have you around.
Thank you. That means the world to me. It is such a joy. It is like my husband and I are just constantly giddy when we when we see people finally get relief. And I think it's just because it is so traumatizing to go through years of chronic pain and to go through years of going to different practitioners and nobody is healing you and nobody's really even listening. So it's just such a joy to be able to see people heal.
And I can tell from when I speak to you and when I watch your videos that you really do enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love it so much. I geek out.
Yeah. So tell our listeners where they can find out more, how they can get in touch.
Yeah, so with our program, essentially our mission here is to fill in the gaps of why people haven't been able to heal. So especially people with hypermobility. So we have ergonomists on staff for fixing the way that you sit, stand, work. We have physical therapists on staff. We have corrective exercise specialists on staff, including myself, all of which are experts in hypermobility. And we give you just a full program, video tutorial program with weekly sessions and 24/7 coaching support so that anytime a flare-up pops up, you are supported. You have that help with your mental setup, with everything that goes into this holistic process of healing. You have 100% support. So this is really intended to be for the people who have tried everything and nothing has worked. That is my passion, that you actually get solutions. So people can follow me on Instagram. My username is Tracy Rodriguez, CES. And then you can also check out my program at www.workpainfreeprogram.com. And you can also search for my Facebook group, which is what you were talking about with all of those videos. I give free videos, free tutorials, free resources, and I really try to base it off of my group members. So that's a great free resource. And that's on Facebook. You can just search for the Work Pain Free Community.
Yeah, because you're brilliant with that, because I think I said to you that I was having an issue with something specific and you're like, right, I'm going to do a video next week. So you're absolutely fantastic in regards to responding to your group members. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I can't recommend you enough.
Oh, thank you.
And even I haven't gone through your program yet and I haven't watched all your videos yet. Just from the interaction that we've had and the videos that I have watched, I know it's going to benefit me.
Oh, that means so much.
Most definitely. So I am going to be getting stuck into when things calm down a little bit and I've done a bit more mental work on my process. And, I'm definitely going to be making it part of my daily routine. There are things I do anyway. I've been doing the ball stuff for probably a couple of years now, but I've never done it on my hip, which is something that you showed in one of your videos. I've always just used it like on my back,
Yeah.
Shoulder blades, that kind of thing. But since seeing your video, I've actually started using it on my hips, which are hella tight.
Yeah.
All the time. That connection that you speak about to the foot and the ankle and all the rest of it.
Exactly.
That's what it's just really interesting. It really, really is. And just getting that more of an understanding of what your body is doing, it's so important. It's something that I've not focused on anywhere near enough in the past, but that is my new focus.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's such a great phase of life. I love that.
I think it's time now because I'm getting on. I'm in my mid-40s. So it's more than time.
It's a great time.
For me to start focusing on all of that. Oh, it's been absolutely a pleasure having you on today. Thank you so much.
Agreed. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I've loved this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. And even if the listeners don't gain anything from this, I've gained loads. So thanks so much.
Job done. Yeah.
That's it, job done. But no, I'm sure that people are going to gain so much just from what you shared today, let alone once they join your Facebook group and your Instagram and all the rest of it, they'll get so much more. This is
fantastic.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and before you leave me, could you please finish this sentence for me? I am a chronic warrior because...
I am a chronic warrior because I push through what seems hopeless to find the hope.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You take care of yourself and we will speak soon.
Sounds great.
Okay, great. Enjoy the rest of your day, Tracy.
You too.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Chronic Warriors podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share this podcast.